I always had this inner voice inside me that I kind of listened to that talked about being great. And great means that bad things are going to happen to you. Bad things are always going to happen to you, but it's how you respond to it. And at 5 years old, I was witnessing my mother basically turn our apartment into a brothel. I witnessed my mother have guys come through in order to get a fix because she turned herself into a prostitute to make money to get crack. My name is Jamarr John Johnson, and I am more than a dreamer. Had a tremendous time kicking it with my boy Julian Wallace, Manifest Wallace in the house. And we did his first episode of More Than a Dreamer podcast. This kid is amazingly talented as a musician, as a videographer, and as a marketer. And I encourage you to tune in to every episode of More Than a Dreamer.
What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Manifest Wallace. Welcome to More Than a Dreamer. I'm here with my guy, Jamarr John Johnson. What's going on, Jamar?
Hey, man, I'm doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on your episode, man.
Of course. This the episode 1. You know, we're thugging it out. You know, first episode.
Absolutely.
But so tell us about first off, who you are and what you do.
Absolutely, man. So my name is Jamarr John Johnson.com. It's not an actual domain. I had it at one point. Actually, my website's IamJamarr.com. I am a comedian, a speaker, an entrepreneur, a veteran of the military, originally from New York, Harlem World, in the building, what's going on? And I'm just out here grinding and hustling and trying to inspire people and make a difference in the world with my talents.
Okay. So where did Jamarr start? You know, what was your upbringing like?
You know, it's really interesting, man, because my father was a veteran. He was a Marine, came back addicted to heroin, and his name was Theodore. And from what I hear, because I didn't really get to know him very well, when I was 3, he kind of left, you know, taking care of me and my brother. And when I was 9, he was murdered. So I didn't really have a close connection, but from what everybody tells me, I'm a spitting image of him. And he was like the neighborhood everything man, you know, like everybody came to him to solve problems. Everybody came to him to fix things. And he was able to just give. But unfortunately, he didn't really learn to kind of make sure he take care of himself and his family. So that's where I was born, essentially. You know, he named me Jamarr with 2 R's to be unique, to represent a new beginning, a new chance for him to live on. And so hopefully I'm able to do that as I'm the oldest of 4 kids. My mother struggled a little bit. You know, she was actually addicted to crack cocaine from 5 to 12 years old. And I was raised with my grandmother for a while. And my grandmother was a staunch disciplinarian. She kept a clean house. She cooked real good. But, you know, her best friend was Budweiser, you know. So at times I would have to deal with her being unstable. So I learned to just explore inside of myself with my creativity, and I learned to just deal with my emotions. I learned to also speak and really communicate what I was feeling. And luckily, my mother got clean when I was 13 years old, and had a lot of extensive, you know, work when it came to Narcotics Anonymous, you know, family therapy, group therapy, and she really just poured into me everything that she didn't have, so that I could break the chain and break the cycle. So that's what I represent, somebody who survives, who's learned to thrive, and really learned to just put his creativity to use each and every single day.
So your childhood, I'm assuming because when you talk about it, you talk about very clear, and we don't really hear the trauma in it, you know? Because we know there's a lot of people who live lives like that, and they went through a lot of trauma, and they weren't able to get out of that spot, you know? So what about you specifically in your childhood, maybe it was your grandma, but what helped you stay focused and stay on the grind? Because there's so many people who go through what you go through, then they just get left behind, you know?
Absolutely. You know, and for me, honestly, I don't mean to breeze over how difficult it was, but I think that I always had this inner voice inside me that I kind of listened to that talked about being great. And great means that bad things are going to happen to you. Bad things are always going to happen to you, but it's how you respond to it. And at 5 years old, I was witnessing my mother basically turn our apartment into a brothel. I witnessed my mother have guys come through in order to get a fix because she turned herself into a prostitute to make money to get crack. And I was aware of that at 5 years old. You know what I mean? And so I was just concerned for my brother's safety. I was concerned for her safety. And so when a social worker came and asked me what was happening, I said, "Can you help my mother? Can you help her, please?" You know? So I pleaded to help my mother, for us, me and my brother, to be taken away so that my mother could get the help that she so desperately needed, you know? So I give all the glory to God on that one. And I'm not a religious guy, but I know something else was driving my actions. It couldn't have been me. I mean, I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then when I was living with my grandmother, I knew that my best course of action to avoid the bombs being dropped on me was to just keep to myself, don't get into any trouble, go to school, get good grades, do whatever she says. And every once in a while I would get caught out there. I would maybe miss curfew and I would get my ass whipped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I just learned how to play the game. I learned how to play the game within the system, but also inside. I yearned for more. I yearned for my mother. And I just kind of kept hopeful that things would change. I think at an early age, I just had faith in that things would get better. And that's not necessarily in any kind of religious belief, but just faith that things gotta get better. Like it can't be this bad forever. I gotta just stay open to the possibility that things could get better. And that's really where my faith comes from.
That's dope. That's powerful.
Yeah.
So do you think growing up the way you grew up, you think that's the reason why you chose to go to the military?
I mean, it definitely was, man. When you grow up in the hood and you see violence all around you, first of all, you want to learn how to defend against it. So joining the military was like, yo, it's an opportunity for me to learn how to sling these weapons. You know what I'm saying? But this M16, you know, as a Marine, you know, this is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. You know, me and my rifle must become one, so I can defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So that a part of it was like to just get out of. I was bullied a lot. Because I didn't grow up with fly kicks and all of that stuff. So I had people who, you know, would try to make fun of me and things like that. And so for me, it was like the military was like a way to step into just manhood, go through that rites of passage. You know what I mean? Learn how to do what you got to do. Learn how to take the life out of somebody if you need to. But understand that it's really to protect your family back home, this great country, despite all of the craziness that has happened, especially to our people. My father served. I wanted to right the wrongs that happened to him. My father actually got out of the military on some really bad conduct stuff because he had a racist dude talking to him. My father didn't play that. My father punched his teeth out. Wow. But it was after repeated attempts that this guy was trying to make my father feel less than. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to join, but I'm not going to let them break me down. I'm going to come out a winner. So I joined the military to, you know, escape the hood. You know, I realized that everywhere you go, there you are. You know what I mean? Like you gotta get really good with yourself, and then you can overcome all obstacles. So I joined the military for college. I got my undergrad. I got my master's paid for. I traveled the world. You know what I mean? And I protected our country. So I feel very proud of it.
Y'all hear that? That's some stuff right there.
Yeah.
Now, as you were talking, I started thinking about the fact that you're also a comedian.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about like Kevin.
A transformational comedian.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
So transformational comedian means that I don't just tell jokes just to try to get a laugh. I try to have a message really connected to what I'm talking about. I feel like the best comedians are philosophers. And I fancy myself as a master student of philosophy and as someone who always wants to learn how to trigger not just laughter, but trigger emotion, trigger change, trigger transformation. So I've been speaking longer than I've been doing comedy in terms of like in front of people.
Okay. So
for me, I was like, you know what, how do I set myself apart? I'm not just in this for the laugh. I'm in this for the transformation. I want somebody to leave and be inspired and think not only was he funny, but man, he had a message. And what can I go do with that? That's really what my goal is.
Okay. So since you're a transformational comedian, right? That means that you didn't always have the passion for comedy, right?
You know what? Comedy with humor was always something that I used as a mechanism for self-defense, to deflect, to avoid, to connect. So to me, comedy and humor is just a part of my life. I've always been that. It wasn't until I was 25 that I actually saw it live for the first time and realized, because of the stories that they were telling, that I was one of them.
Yeah.
You know, and one of them just meaning someone who believes in truth, someone who believes in justice, someone who believes in connecting with people on a deeper level. And I think comedians, because of their ability to make people laugh and create oxytocin in the body, in the mind, they are the most connectable people of all people. And I've always felt like that's who I was.
Super connector.
Super connector, yeah. That's the title of my book that's dropping March 21st. March 21st, right after I do the Sleep Out with the Covenant House, where I raise money for at-risk homeless teens. At one point, I was homeless. At one point, me and my mother were homeless in a battered women's shelter. Like, there's so many things and ways I connect with people who struggled. And so for me, it's like to always be that shining light, to give them the opportunity to make it through the overground railroad. Because it's 2020, but people are still suffering. So the way Harriet Tubman did back in her day, I think it's important for anybody who is able to make it out to leave some light to shine back so somebody else can find their way through the path.
That's really powerful. And that's actually like the whole concept of more than a dreamer, you know?
Yeah.
Because what you just described is you were able to go from where you went and become more than, you know? And some people get stuck in there.
Absolutely.
So it's awesome that you feel like your purpose is to show people that there's a way out.
Absolutely. You know, in 2014, man, I was listening to some personal development work, and I was listening to some lectures by Napoleon Hill, and he talked about writing down the purpose of your life. Because if you don't do that, it's like a ship leaving the shore, going someplace, you'll be lost at sea. And because I was a naval officer after the Marine Corps, I became a naval officer. That specific metaphor, it resonated so deeply with me that I stopped the tape right there and I wrote down the purpose of my life. When I did that, man, it hit me because it was like, the purpose of my life is to bring joy, pleasure, and happiness to all those around me. To learn daily, achieve greatly by always following my divine creativity so that one day I can say I've helped as many people as humanly possible in this world live a life of their own design and let their creativity drive the way. When I wrote that down, and of course it wasn't that succinct and that perfect, but I've been saying it almost every day for the last 6 years almost, it started to direct my life. Having that purpose gave me a filter in which to put everything I went through in life through and determine what steps I should take next. And so leaving that light back, I believe that all mentors are lighthouses. No matter how big or how small, your light can help someone avoid crashing into the shoreline so that they can make it through.
Okay. So what would you say, because when I'm listening to, like, you found your purpose.
Sure.
So what would you say was your passion?
So my passion at that point was doing comedy, was public speaking. And I always tell people, you know, one of my gifts is that I'm a purveyor of awesome shit, which means if I find something awesome, I just can't resist telling people about it.
Yeah.
So to me, that goes hand in hand. That's natural with marketing and natural with selling, because selling is just telling somebody about something that could help them solve a problem that they have. If someone doesn't have a problem, sure, you can try to make them think they have a problem, but ultimately they're going to realize, well, that's not really my problem, and then they're going to return whatever you sold them, or they're going to cancel whatever you sold them. And so to me, true selling is literally solving a problem in someone's life. And so I realized that those are very natural skills that I have. And I started to do more research, and I read this book called To Sell Is Human by Daniel Pink. And he was an author who realized that 80% of his day was spent doing sales activities. He's like, most people are actually in sales and don't realize it yet. So once I really took hold and took accountability for that, that's what I really am in. If you're a comedian, even if you're an artist, you're selling people on the vulnerability that you express with your music. All of that is persuasion. All of that is connection. And so I said, I'm going to spend my life mastering that, teaching that forward so that I can become a master student at that game.
Makes sense. Like, Jamar's actually coaching me right now on this stuff, like all mindset.
Absolutely.
And he put me on this book called The Strangest Secret.
Yep. It's an Audible. It's
Audible, yeah.
Audible first. It was the first gold personal development record in history in 1957. This guy named Earl Nightingale was a sales manager, and he was going out of town, so he made this audio recording to leave to his people. They started loving it. They started sharing it. It was like the first viral audio ever created.
That's dope.
Yeah.
But in it talks about literally, like you said, everything in sales. Like, you have to sell your family on ideas.
Absolutely.
You have to sell everyone on ideas, you know? So that makes a lot of sense.
You gotta sell your
sales.
kids on why they need to eat their vegetables.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everything is sales. When you really, really think about it, every time you have an opportunity to talk to someone, you're either persuading them that you can help them, or you're persuading them that you can't help them. You're either selling good or you're selling bad. It's up to you.
Yep. And also when you're talking about problems, like even like what we earn is based on how many problems we solve, you know?
Absolutely.
And how many people we help and how many people we serve.
It's a direct correlation, like your skill set and also what you're willing to negotiate yourself for. Because you can go and spend the same amount of time helping somebody that's going to pay you $10 or somebody that's going to pay you $1,000. It's the same time. Time is the only thing that is so precious that we just have to be mindful of. How we value ourselves will determine how we spend our time, what we put into our mind, our body, and how we fill our spirit.
That's deep.
Yeah.
So here at More Than a Dreamer, we understand that like ideas are worthless without action.
Absolutely.
Implementation. So since you're someone who's like, you have so much experience and so many years and so much knowledge, can you give like because people like we struggle, I struggle, you struggle. Can you give us some tips to get our mindsets right and like to go from like idea to actual execution?
Absolutely. So obviously the first thing when you have an idea is to write it down. Right? Write down your idea and then ask yourself, well, how can I implement this idea, right? The way you implement that idea is going to potentially require you to bring people into the equation, right? Nothing we get done in this world is done alone. Whether you read a book or watch a YouTube video, you're calling upon the strengths of others, mentors, coaches, etc. So if you have an idea and you're not really sure, how do I implement this? Then the next step I would say, well, reach out to a mentor and just ask a couple questions. They can help steer you, right? Because I said mentors are lighthouse. So with their ability to answer your questions, they can now steer you in the right direction. Now, a mentor is different from a coach. A mentor is there to just answer questions every time you reach out. It's your job to reach out to them. A coach is different. A coach is checking in on you. They're trying to hold you accountable to the goals that you set, and they're trying to give you some actionable things that you can measure. Because there's a saying, what gets measured gets mastered. If you're trying to do 100 push-ups, but every day you do a number of push-ups and you don't even keep track of what that number is, how will you ever build up enough to do 100 push-ups straight?
Yeah.
Right? So once you write down your goal, you set out a plan of action to achieve that goal for what you think is best. You tap into your mentor. Now, if you can't afford a coach, guess what? You're going to tap into a multitude of mentors. A bunch of different mentors can equate to a coach because they're giving you solutions, right? But ultimately, you got to go through and risk failing, risk looking stupid, risk looking silly at times in order to come up with enough action that now you have, okay, this didn't work, that didn't work, this didn't work. Enough iterations will give you a course correction so that you can now be more succinct towards that goal.
Would you say that like reading like autobiographies and even podcasts, that's like forms of mentorship?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I did. I had a TED Talk last year called Mentors Are Lighthouses, and I talked about that mentors are not just living people. Mentors are books, mentors are podcasts, mentors are movies. You have to look, and wherever you draw your inspiration, the key thing though is to keep track of the different nuggets of wisdom that you receive. You can't keep track of it all in here. It's important to write things down. It's important to record yourself repeating different notions and quotes and things like that. And start journaling, start logging things down, have a notebook. Like learning is a thing that you need to do for life.
Yeah.
And the more that you learn how to learn, the more efficient you can be at retaining all of the information that you consume so that you can organize it in a strategic way so that you can implement it. If you don't have any strategy, that's why I tell people, are you a chess player or are you a checker player? Mm-hmm. Checkers is pretty simple, right? You just move the pieces along the colors and you jump. That's it. Chess is a lot more strategic. Start spending more time being strategic in how you approach life, and you'll see better results because life is not black and white. It's 50 shades of gray.
Yeah.
Or chocolate, as I like to
It's
say.
interesting you say that because I grew up playing chess, but I never played checkers. And because I don't know how to play checkers, it seems complicated. But I guess because I never played checkers, I've always had the strategy because I grew up playing chess, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So also, we're both marketers, right? So can you, I'm sure a lot of business owners are gonna be watching this.
Sure.
Can you talk about the importance of marketing? Because I know that marketing is the bloodline to any business.
Absolutely. Yeah, marketing really is everything, And getting out of the military, I was already a speaker, I was already a comedian. I realized that everything relied on marketing. And a lot of times people wanted to be signed to big agencies and companies because of the connections that they had and also the bankroll that they had in order to help facilitate marketing. But here's what I realized. We are now in 2020, here it is March. We are in the golden age of marketing in terms of small business owners having access, if not greater capabilities, because they can shift efficiently in their marketing, especially in a digital sense. When I first got out of the military, I had a couple of stints. I worked at a radio station that did mostly AM radio, but they had an online presence and they were selling marketing services, getting the word out, having your advertisements on the radio. And I had an incident where I saw somebody doing something unethical. And I realized that, man, there's a lot of potential for marketers to do harm because they can promise things that they can't deliver on. And so I was like, man, I feel bad for a lot of business owners out there who are not exposed to people who are ethical about their marketing.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is there's no guarantees of anything in life. Nothing at all. You can walk out of here today and get hit by a car. But with someone who's ethical, they're going to break down how they go about their process. They're going to show you what you can do on your end to help make things a little bit easier for them. And they're going to give you realistic expectations on what to come. But if you're a business owner and you don't have a grasp on marketing, that's where you hire someone to come in that you trust, that you get a good feeling from. And then they lay out a strategy to help you achieve more leads, more, not just impressions, because impressions don't mean anything. You want to have communications with potential clients. So to me, the objective of effective marketing is to always bring it to a situation where they can measure how many people are you talking to? How many people do you want to talk to in order to make your business move the way it needs to move? And with social media, with Facebook, with Instagram, obviously people are using LinkedIn a little bit more. I would say Facebook and Instagram should be the focal point, followed by a messenger strategy and an email strategy. Although we know email is starting to become extremely saturated, it's important to have kind of a one-to-one relationship and also have a one-to-many relationship. So that can be done through Facebook Messenger, and that can also be done through text message. But it has to be authentic. If it feels spammy, people are like, take me off this list.
Yeah, that's
so
for
it's
sure.
really about being authentic. And honestly, the biggest thing I would say as well is that when you have a business, you got to think about it. Does it have a brand of its own, or are you the brand as the business owner? Mm-hmm. And if you're the brand, you have to be able to come correct. That means you have to get your speaking capabilities up to par. That means you have to get your elevator pitches, your sales pitches, your marketing pitches, and all of that stuff is going to be done on video, because that's where 80% of consumers are consuming content now.
Yeah, video is king, everybody. Video is king.
That's what we're doing here right now with this podcast. Like, I've had a podcast for years, and it was all audio. Now, people do listen to audio still, but you got to make sure you're hitting them in multiple fashions.
Yeah, because the good thing with video is you could put it out, video, and then take that audio.
Exactly.
That's 2 forms of content right there.
I call it stratification. Yep. That's the stratification method. So
then chop it up, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jamarr, man, I really appreciate you being here.
Hey, my pleasure, man.
This first guest ever. This is epic.
Yeah.
Epic times, man.
Before I go, man, I want to just leave people with something else. It's just something from my book called Super Connecting, which is the art and science of creating meaningful relationships in a digital age. And if you really think about it, how you and I met, we met because of digital methodologies that I used in order to attract people to an opportunity to work together. And it's about creating value first, showing who you are authentically, and then with that, just making an offer that is a no-brainer and is a potential win for your clients. And if you do that enough, you'll have so many clients banging down your door that the only thing you can do to solve the problem is raise the prices, because your time becomes that much more valuable to you. So to me, connecting, networking, really authentically showing people that you care is the number one thing you can do for your business and to help your clients.
That's up.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Right,
Episode 1 down,
Episode
more than a dreamer.
Down, man. Stay in touch with me at Jamarr J on Instagram and Twitter. And my website is my email address is CEO@UpMindMedia. Send me some love. And UpMindMedia.com is my marketing site. IamJamarr.com is my personal site where I do my speaking, my comedy, my coaching. Stay up.
Yeah, stay tuned for the next episode. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.